10 past 1. This is Power 98.7 as we join our next guest in studio for quite an important conversation, but also one that gets quite challenging for us with the backgrounds that we have. We're talking in our property feature about hiring help in the home, choosing the right helper in your home, and what you can do if you cannot afford one full time. Bringing somebody into your home who will help with the cleaning, who will help us with, for example, maybe even supporting our children, making some food, all of the basics, the laundry, the sweeping that are not basic because we're at work for however many hours and we're exhausted regardless of what kind of work you do. You're going to need some help at some point. And I know I come from a family whose generation before me had no help. But then they wonder why they're all burnt out and exhausted. I do not choose that life for myself. I need help in my home. I have accepted it. I need help. And so I do everything that I can to make sure that I have some of the best people in my world to assist with all of the spaces that I can't plug into at any given time. So in this conversation, we're going to talk about legality in South Africa. You know that there are many aspects of the way that we hire the people in our homes and making sure that it's safe and that it's fair. And then also ensuring that we have a good fit, because there's nothing worse than having a fit that is uncomfortable. I'm just giggling to myself. I saw this woman write a story about how she was very, very young, like 27 young, right? And for the first time, she had a helper in her first little apartment. And you know, your first apartment, you're so proud of that place, right? And she got busy and more busy in her legal work. And eventually this Makelwane said, listen, my lady's with me for far too many days. Maybe you can take her for 2 days. And so she did that and they made the arrangement. There was a guy who came to drop something off at work, and the helper was like, "Oh, utlisa bashimane mo ntlong e. Oh, ke a bona motho o jwang bashimane." And then the next few days, I think she had some friends over, and there was half a bottle of wine left in the fridge. And this woman came in and said, "Nah, I can bergele matagwa. Either the booze is gone or I'm gone. I don't work for drunks in this house." And she was like, "Oh my gosh, this is not a good fit. I'm not your daughter." And so we've got to get out and extricate ourselves from this relationship. So, all sorts of things may happen if somebody is working in your home. It's a very personal, very private space to be in. So let's speak to Clean Queens director Nancy Sangweni, who's on the line with us to talking about what is this entire new world that we live in when it comes to helpers, and maybe some of the biggest advice that she has for us. Nancy, welcome. It's good to talk to you.
Hi, thanks, Pabi. It's good to talk to you too. Thank you for having me. And hi to everyone who's listening out there.
So let's start at the very top. I mean, what are some of the biggest oversights people have when hiring somebody to come help us in the home?
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said a good fit. And a lot of people miss this. So I would say the most important thing that people often miss is having a conversation with that helper. So before onboarding that helper. So when you have someone coming in on a full-time basis, it's very common for people to have a conversation beforehand and get to know the person. But oftentimes, sometimes if you're having someone come in once a week or every so often, you don't take the time to get to know that people, that person. And like you mentioned, that person is in your home, they're in your space. You have to know them before welcoming them into your house. And oftentimes, just with the conversation, you can get to understand, just with a simple conversation, you can get to understand who someone is. Um, for example, you might like someone who's more chatty in the home versus someone who is a bit more reserved and, is quiet and just gets on with it. Or you have a conversation with your potential cleaner, or you've hired her already, and you realize that you can't even have a conversation with her. You literally don't speak the same language. Or they're allergic to pets and your fur babies are all over the house. So that kind of thing is what you want to identify beforehand if they are a good fit. And the last thing you want is to have someone around in your home who just isn't a good fit practically and personality wise and even just energy wise. And that's why at Clean Queens, my trainer Bushra and I have a conversation with each of the ladies during our onboarding to get a sense of what they're like and the details that may seem little, but in the day-to-day life can make all the difference.
And this is the thing, right? If you, for example, have fur babies, in your very first conversation, we should be able to make a non-desperate decision. I say that because we know people are desperate to work, and we also may be desperate to have somebody on board to help us. So we've got to just go, see, it's just not going to work. You're allergic to them. You're scared of them. It's just not going to work. Yeah.
Exactly.
So in your experience, what else can homeowners do to properly vet a potential helper?
Right. So criminal checks, and when I say criminal checks, I mean police clearance certificates, that type of thing. That's important. But reference checks are very, very important. So tenure, how long does this person stay with whoever they work for? Are they someone who bounces around and jumps around and, they're unreliable? Are there a lot of gaps in their history? So this type of information you get during that conversation. They need to provide those references, and you need to make sure you follow up and contact and make sure that what they're saying is
The truth.
is the truth,
Yeah.
exactly. And understanding this, historic information can help make all the difference in making you feel secure with someone new in your home.
That's really great. Legal basics that people often overlook. The real risks of hiring someone who'll work for a specific amount of hours in your home without a contract or UIF registration. Talk to us about what we need to know.
Yeah, look, a contract is also incredibly important because it serves as a guide to your working relationship, so that both parties are on the same page in terms of expectations. It's easy when you have someone in your home all the time to believe that they are family, which is great. I mean, of course, it's you should be good to people, and but with the same breath, you have to remember that this person, you're in a business relationship with this person. It's the same as your relationship with your employer. Nothing is different just because they're in your home, and you need to make sure that you have all those measures and checks in place, so that if anything goes wrong, there is something to fall back on, and also so that no one feels like they're taken advantage of.
Say more about that.
In terms of being taken advantage of.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it goes back to goodness. So for example, you might expect your lady to clean your windows every week.
Okay.
But you have those tiny little French cottage windows, and those take an incredible amount of time to clean. They're time consuming because you have to clean each and every little window. That type of thing needs to be discussed beforehand, and expectations need to be set up front. That's a very basic example, but things like leave, or public holidays. Is she going to get a public holiday off, or do you expect her to look after the kids while you are enjoying the public holiday?
For sure.
So that type of thing needs to be set up, and it needs to be stipulated up front, again, so that everyone knows knows what their
Expectations are.
what expectations are. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's very, very important. And
Hmm.
what, you find that people don't do that?
Um, they don't have
A
contract in
big
place.
conversation and a contract
No,
in place about
no.
expectations.
No, very often not.
Mm.
So I mean, of course, it's great with us because we, as clean queens, we have that conversation beforehand. So we have
Yeah.
a list of duties, we have a list of tasks that the cleaners are expected to perform, and we share that with the clients. I mean, it's available. So everyone is generally everyone knows what the expectation is. But oftentimes when people are, you'll choose to help the lady on the side of the road. And
Sure.
of course, again, because she's desperate for the job, she'll say, okay, I'll start working for you. And you don't know this lady, but anyway, you've put some trust in her, and then things go awry. And there's nothing to fall back on. There's no, everyone is just agreeing in the beginning, and then at the end it turns out to be more complicated than one anticipates.
And part of why I want to talk legal basics, ethics, contracts, all of it, is we hear stories and read stories of a household that cannot afford full-time help, but would like full-time help. So we want to make sure that somebody is possibly bringing an income into their home,
Yeah.
but this household can't really get to what the legal standard is. What are some part-time or flexible options you could recommend?
Yeah. So, look, I mean, everyone would like to have someone washing the dishes every day and doing their laundry, doing their ironing every day. But I suppose it's not really a reality for a lot of people. And not everyone can afford full-time help, but also not everyone wants full-time help. Not everyone needs that. So, with Clean Queens, you have the flexibility to have someone come as frequently or infrequently as you need. You can have someone come in 3 times a week, for example, once a week, once every second week, once a month, or even sporadically.
So the
Once
same
or twice.
person, you'll
The
build
same person.
a relationship over time, but they're not full-time.
Yes,
Okay.
100%. Yeah. So the great thing about us is that we have this database of ladies, and then we
Yes.
also have these clients who are coming in who, let's say, probably you want someone who works on a Tuesday, and I need someone who works on a Monday and a Friday. So we can just arrange the ladies' calendar in that way. And then not only can you choose the number of days, but you can also choose the number of hours. So you can book anywhere between 4 and 8 hours. And of course, that provides a lot of flexibility because you don't always need everything to be done. If you're managing your home and you don't need everything to be all done at once, you can be selective. And the way our service works is that you can think of it as that you're renting the time of the lady. So whatever she can reasonably accommodate within the time that she's with you, you're welcome to delegate that time. Of course, as long as it's safe, and it's not something like gardening or something that's a bit inappropriate.
Yes.
So basically, you're not limited to a set number of tasks. So, for example, if you're having a really rough week at work and you just haven't gotten around to ironing, you can book someone to come in and do the ironing for the day. And then the next week, you can have someone come in and spring clean the kitchen because you've been hosting and the kitchen is just a mess. Or the next week, you can have someone come in and wipe down the walls because your mother-in-law is coming to spend the weekend. That kind of thing. So there really are flexible options for customers. Yeah.
It's like you're reading my mind, Carl, in
I love
Alberton,
it.
because your question is around what I want to ask next. Carl, welcome. You're on the air.
Hi, how are you guys? Great topic.
Thank
It
you.
does give sense. The question is,
Yeah.
can we overpay help?
Can what?
Can we overpay help? Like, if somebody comes once a week at your flat, but they've got another 4 days with someone, and you pay them a rate that's quite high for 1 day a week, will it damage the relationship with the other party?
The other party meaning where else they're working, the other home
Yeah,
they're
the 4
working
days,
in.
where the 4 days they spend, yeah. If they spend 4 days somewhere else and you only want 1 day of that week,
Yeah.
will your overpaying damage the relationship with their original owner?
Very interesting, Carl. Owners. Very interesting. Nancy, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it really depends on the cleaner, right? If she's comfortable, I don't know if you can really overpay someone. If you are generous enough to pay them what you feel that they are worth, that's great. Continue to do that.
Yeah.
In terms of their relationship with other clients, it could go either way. She can say, okay, look, this guy is really generous and he's paying me more than these people are paying me, but these people are also paying me a fair rate, so that's okay. Or she could use it as an opportunity to get those other people to increase their payment because she feels that's her worth, that's her value. But really, I don't think you could ever overpay someone. You can definitely underpay someone.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But no, I don't think it could cause any relationship issues unless, of course, you want more days, and then she would. Basically, instead of working at the client that she generally works for you, who's paying her a little bit more, and that creates some kind of animosity and inconsistency, maybe from the client themselves. But if the cleaner manages it well, I doubt that she would want to risk losing her other clients because you would only be using her for so many days in a week. So yeah, I don't see that as an issue.
You know what? I'm trying to think of it from all angles because if you are Monday and Tuesday she comes to you, but Wednesday and Thursday she goes elsewhere where Carl is paying her quite an inflated fee compared to yours. If you were then the one who she comes to and goes, you see, down the road there, I get more. I want to negotiate. In a way, it can destroy your own relationship with your helper. So we've all got to be quite careful about, what the contracts are in place and what that initial conversation is.
Yeah, absolutely. And the cleaner also has to, the cleaner also needs to understand her market, right?
Okay.
So just because this guy is paying her that much doesn't mean if she sours the relationship with this person that wherever else she goes, she's going to get the amount that. So there also needs to be a sort of business thinking from the cleaner, because that's what they are, right? They're their own business people.
Yeah.
That's how they need to think.
Okay, I've got a WhatsApp here saying, hi, Pabi and the Clean Queen. What is the policy on helpers getting into relationships with their employers? Nancy?
My goodness. I must be honest, I have never encountered that before. But goodness.
What the heck is what you're looking for?
I'm not gonna lie. If someone wants to have a relationship, at the end of the day, you can't stop that, right?
Yes, we're human beings. Yeah,
they're human beings, and if there's a love connection, there's a love connection. Man, I'm not gonna, it's.
But you see, you mustn't be surprised when the wife comes back and finds you in a compromising position and you lose your job. I don't think you can go to the CCMA for that. I think that...
no, I don't think so. I don't think they'll take that one very seriously.
Exactly. And then let's talk about what a baseline fair figure is per hour. If you work it out that way or if you work it out per day, let us know.
Yeah. So, the law is clear on this particular issue. We have a minimum wage in South Africa, and for domestic workers, that minimum wage is 28.79 per hour. So that is the rate. That's what that's what legally we are required to pay. So if you're paying under that, you're exploiting your lady, and if you pay over that, then you're generous.
Okay, brilliant. 28.79 per hour.
$28.79 per hour.
Which means that, back to my question around you can't afford help full time.
Yeah.
Perhaps work out how many hours you can afford over how many days and kind of squeeze that into your budget. But unfortunately, Nancy, we're still finding people who are willing to take absolute peanuts out of desperation. I mean, how do we help that situation along?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that there are people out there who are willing to exploit the ladies like that, and it's unfortunate that people are in such a tough position.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the benefits of the ladies joining a company like Clean Queens, where we have a set rate, we do everything above board, and of course there's a relationship, and we are constantly finding the ladies' work.
Yeah, and I do think that's a good place to end off. Tell us how we can find Clean Queens and where do you operate?
Sure. So we cover Johannesburg. We cover the entire Johannesburg. We don't just do maid services. We also do pre and post occupation services. So that's if you're moving out or moving into a property, we clean that property. We do carpet cleaning. We do upholstery cleaning, and we're adding some more services as well. But we are not limited to part-time domestic helper services. If you'd like to contact us, you can reach us via our website, cleanqueens.co.za. Don't forget the S. It's cleanqueens.co.za. Or you can email us at info@cleanqueens.co.za.
Perfect. Nancy, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the chat.
Yeah, I think it was a very important one. Nancy Sangweni there, Clean Queens Director on Power Lunch.